All right, guys, welcome back to the last match of the day. We have time for one more. It's the NVIDIA Hearthstone Pro-Am. Let's take a second to also explain once again, Nimsh, what we were doing here, the format.
All right, so we are in an NVIDIA Pro-Am tournament where we have professional players, 16 professional players playing against each other. They're accumulating points, and in the end, those 16 players will advance to the top 32 versus 16 amateur players that are fighting in the amateur Swiss tournament right now. We had 15,000 people queued up for the Swiss format from all three regions. We have what's the prize pool again? Because it's really big.
It's $25,000 last time I checked. 10,000 for the winner. 100 world championship points. So
That's a lot.
winning it gives you a really big seeding into the phase of the tournament. Phase one of the tournament. If you get enough points, you go directly to phase two. You can find more information about that at Battle.net. I know if you guys are watching, you're like, well, maybe I'm a little bit too far back to catch up to get number one in the region. But you might still collect some points, whether through firesides, on ladder, etc. We have Hype versus Forsen coming up next. And this is a matchup where I'm pretty excited to see if Forsen can turn it around and defeat a guy like Hyped. I feel like these two players haven't played much in the past. I don't really remember, based off of scanning my my brain, if there's these guys have any matches in history. Can you think of anything?
I don't recall any specific matches. I think it might be because Forsen is EU and Hyped is mostly playing NA matches. Even though Hyped visited Europe for a couple of bigger tournaments, I don't think they actually matched. And it's very interesting because both of those players are rogue players. Like they played rogue class a lot, and they are bringing the rogue to this tournament as well, which will be amazing to see. Both players are actually also known as mage players because Hyped. In the VGVN tournament, we've seen Hype playing his mage without fireballs, and Forsen is lately shining with his freeze mage skills. So nice lineup. I would give an edge to Forsen because he has a druid against the warrior, but it really depends what kind of decks they're bringing.
Yep, sounds good. Well, I'm gonna be saying that Hyped might be playing. Forsen will be playing freeze mage, and I'm gonna assume that Hyped be playing the Flood Mage from Reynad. This is just based off of complete conjecture, off of what I've seen them play recently. I know Forsen really digs Freeze Mage. It's definitely one of his best classes. And I know Hyped, for example, likes Freeze Mage, but he doesn't want to play it that often because he feels like it becomes too predictable.
All right. I think our players are actually ready, so we can jump into the game. So what do you start with? Warrior versus Druid. So already the matchup, that is a Druid, right? No, there was a sprint, so that's Rogue. It's like every time I see Pilot the Shredder, I'm like, yes, that's Druid.
All right,
Rogue
well,
versus Warrior.
yes, the Rogue versus Warrior will be pretty tough. Not sure if Forsen will be able to pressure Warrior enough if they have weapons already or so early on. The fact that you'll be gaining armor, the fact that you have so many 2-for-1 trades against Rogue makes it really difficult. They have to sprint in order to really get some big combos off. So maybe he can do this, but I'm still liking Hype's hand here just on early glance. Anything can change though. Pilot Shredders can do really amazing stuff. Azure Drakes are huge to try and keep up the board momentum.
The real question is, how do you like his mustache? Because we do have mustache boys.
Do I like Forsen's mustache or Hype's mustache?
Yeah, that's the question.
Well, I think Hype takes a lot better care of his facial hair. You can just tell by the way he shaves. And I think Forsen doesn't shave. So I guess if you want to go for that all-natural look, you go with Forsen. If you want to go with... Yeah.
That's a fair explanation.
Yep.
I won't be picking any, but I do agree with you. All right, so here in this matchup, as you said, Rogue is disadvantaged. A Warrior will be able to armor up. There's a lot of weapons for Hyped and a lot of ways to stop the damage. Originally, Warrior was just able to gain enough health so that Rogue was running out of cards and out of damage. But the key to the matchup is Forsen is a rogue playing minions and being able to deal as much damage with minions as possible, and then just finish the game with one burst. His hand was, I'd say, all right. He had that Pilot Shredder. He was able to deal a bit of damage, and now right now he has that board and weapon. But will it be enough to go through hype? Might not be enough looking at Sludge Belcher and a Shield Maiden.
Yeah. The Drake poses to be quite the problem. Because you don't want it to have spell power, so that way cards like Eviscerate get a lot of value. Not that he has much of a choice, though, because there is a Thanos in hand. And this is one of the benefits of working so closely with other players and being good with Rogue, because I think Hyped is well versed with like the things and the nuances of what Rogue can do. And consequently, Forsen's an excellent Rogue player too. So these guys will definitely be calculating all types of damage that they can be pulling off.
Oh yes, certainly. But for now, it looks good for Forsen, with those minions easily clearing the Shield Maiden and having Dr. Boom as a follow-up on turn 7.
Yeah, that Dr. Boom is so big, actually. Because, again, with Death Spite and whatever you could set up afterwards, it's still, like, not the biggest deal if you just take a little bit of damage. As long as you're making sure to stabilize, keep gaining life, and make it difficult, because Rogue has a finite amount of damage in the deck. But that Dr. Boom is really big, because not every Rogue runs it. And in this case, Hype doesn't actually have a way to kill it that easily, other than the big game hunter. And even then, he still might be taking big damage from the boom bots.
Well, he can still attack face with the weapon. So I think with big game hunter is great. But then big game hunter clocks his mana curve a bit, because he will only have 4 mana left.
Right.
So he will have to armor up and maybe play the Unstable Ghoul. I don't really.
Unstable Ghoul. Yeah. Because then he just gets destroyed by like Fan of Knives and stuff. So.
Yeah. Like even Unstable Ghoul can be more useful later if you know that the rogue has to use the weapon to attack into you. Like we've seen those situations where both rogue and warrior were out of cards, and the rogue was trying to sneak in a bit of weapon damage, like attacking for 1, to top deck something for the kill. So then if end game you play Unstable Ghoul, you can actually survive long enough to get something yourself and not die to burst.
Yeah, that's a good point. Grommash to come out and pressure. You have so many bombs that I don't think Grommash finishes the normal way that you expect to win this game anyway. So I can get behind that. What do you think about Grommash coming out compared to some other stuff?
I like it because right now Hyped is just calmly taking a different route to win the game. Instead of just finishing Rogue with damage, he's just going for the stable way of not dying. He has all the health in the world. Like he has Sludge Belcher, he has Shield Maiden, he has that shield block. So just using Grommash here to soak down, like this Grommash has to be killed. So this is basically tanking damage for Hyped, and Hype has all the follow-up with a lot of damage. So if he gets enough health with the armor, Forsen will just not be able to win, and then that's the win for Hype. I love it. I love this play.
Yeah. Wow. Well, this is still pretty awkward. Like part of the reason why it's really clever too is because he plays around the tempo you can gain from sap. Normally Sylvanas is what you want to do to impact the board, but this is really effective as well. Now the trick is, can Forsen leverage the sap enough to buy time so that way he can do enough damage?
Well, Forsen has 2 of the biggest cards, which is Blade Flurry and Tinker's Sharp Sword Oil.
Right.
And that's a lot of damage in just 2 cards. If he will be able to combo the oil and get +3 attack on a minion that can actually attack, because Violet Teacher creates those tokens, and he can get unlucky there, he might just win the game in one sweep.
We'll see. He's got oil and the Blade Flurry. Whoa.
Double oil. Whoa. Is double oil enough?
That Unstable Ghoul is rather annoying.
Well, Unstable Ghoul is not doing that much. If you double oil, you get +6 attack on a weapon. And do you even need to do it? If you attack into Sludge Belcher for 1, then you oil and attack Sludge Belcher for 4 with a weapon, you do Flurry. You can actually still play a second oil and Flurry for 7 and attack for 8. That's 15. That's 1 damage of lethal. Interesting. If you don't... I think you can win with Eviscerate. I think this is lethal.
Oh.
So you oil first.
Oh, right. You can just squeeze. You can attack and then flurry and then use the eviscerate. But then what about the... Oh. Yeah, I think it also depended on if the oil landed correctly, right?
Yeah.
Right. So one of the things that was like... The interesting dynamic is if Forsen had any of the other minions, the Bio Teacher and the Lotheb, hit the oil. Although I'm curious, because you're saying that he had lethal.
No. I think I messed up with without second oil he deals 3 less damage. So gotcha. He was 1 off. There were so many cards to get played.
So many legendaries. Oh. Is it time to just try to trust in this cool Taskmaster? It might be.
Well, if you can't really easily win, you might just go for a 33%. You know you're at 6. That's not much.
That's true. Shield Maiden gains him 5 more life, so he's at 11. His opponent has 8.
Then he's dead to Deadly Poison. So
Deadly Poison, SI7 Agent, Eviscerate...
second Deadly Poison, second SI7.
Well, yeah. There's just so many.
That's a couple of cards that we haven't seen and they're out. But still, Hyped is just trying to survive right now.
Well, he's dead.
He is dead.
The Eviscerate was lethal, even if he played Shield Maiden. And if I'm Forsen, I guess I just mess around, do whatever I want. Play Sprint, SI7 Agent the face, and then kill. It doesn't really matter. There's any kind of combination here. It really ends the game here. And Forsen will take this first game overhyped.
And it's very important because that was a bad matchup for Forsen, and he was able to get it. And also, Warrior is alive, which means that Forsen still has Druid to counter the Warrior. So if he heals Druid into Warrior, he will be in a very good position. The last deck is Mage. If it's a Freeze Mage, and we've seen Forsen play a lot of Freeze Mage before, he will be in trouble. But if it's a Mech Mage, it will be a good situation for him.
Yeah, it's only bad if, like... Because, I mean, the thing about Conquest is that it'll have one deck. Like, all 3 decks have to beat it. So Freeze Mage has a high chance of being good because there's only this, like, it's got really lopsided matchups. It's got, like, a really bad one, and it's got pretty good ones. Warrior's really bad. Druid's, like, you know, pretty awful. But you still might be able to beat that 3rd deck. It's not eliminated once. It's the opposite. So if it's still Freeze Mage, like, if Hype's playing, like, you know, his own Freeze Mage or something else, like, that's okay. He still can pressure that out. So... I'm looking forward to see what Forsen brings mage-wise, but I'm thinking that Hype's bringing that weird Flood Mage. I'd like to see that. Tempo Mage is pretty cool too, honestly. Or maybe it's time to bust out the Hyped Mage that we saw so long ago. If you remember when we first cast that at VGVN.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
That was an interesting deck, but I think the players are ready, so we will see if we are going to see Freeze Mage versus Freeze Mage Madness. Which is a very interesting matchup, by the way.
No, this is Rogue from Hyped and Druid for Forsen.
Interesting. So who do you think is favored here? We need to see the Druid first, I guess, if it's a combo or...
I like Rogue against Druid. I think Druid struggles a lot in this matchup. It's really difficult for... it's really difficult for Druid to build up a big board that's anti-Blade Flurry. I think one of your key cards are Lotheb. And more importantly, like, if you all those like 3 health, 4 health minions that get built onto the board with Shredders, Drakes, Farseers, and SI7 agents, if you're falling behind on board and you don't have Wild Growth, you're going to be in a big trouble. So I'm already liking the fact that Hyped has like a decent amount of things to do early on, and then looking at Forsen's hand, he really doesn't have anything.
Well, the thing is that Forsen has a really bad start, and Shapeshift on 3 is not something you want to see. But then the Spider to Shitter was important, and he does have the curve after that.
That was a big
And
draw.
from my experience, I would also favor the Rogue, but only if a Rogue player is exceptional. On ladder, I'm queuing with that matchup, and I'm winning a lot of Druid versus Rogue because players don't exactly know how to play it. And the same way goes the other way. Like if you play Rogue versus Druid, because Druid has to go for face, more or less. Like you trade only if you must. You want to get them to 14. Mostly Rogues, they don't have Sludge Belchers. They don't run taunts. So if you're able to get them to... like even Farseer is a new addition. Like people didn't... I guess people always play Farseer. But some early builds at some point didn't have Farseer. They were more aggro-oriented. So you were able to get them to 14 and then win on turn 9.
Yeah, it's true. Drew is capable of beating anything, especially when it gets to a really fast start. I've taken his time thinking about whether I should attack into this Pilot Shredder. And there is debate on both sides. If you leave it, it trades into the Drake easily. But if you trade into it,
you're losing damage.
Right, you're losing damage. He might be able to kill it anyways.
Yeah.
And you might be posturing yourself where if like he has Wrath or something else, you might actually fall too far behind with Shaded Necromanus.
We can already see Hype having an interesting situation where he can sap the Druid. Like, do you really sap Druid of the Claw here, or do you kill it with Deadly Poison? If you weapon up Deadly Poison, you can trade into it, but then you're losing tempo.
What about the Azure Drake and Backstab to try and kill off that?
I like it because then, what you can do overall is like you have double Deadly Poison and you have Flurry, so you can deal 10 points of damage, like out of nowhere almost, for a small amount of mana. So you should be able to get the game in this. You should be able to put yourself in a situation where you just finish the game with 10 points of damage. So the Backstab Azure Drake is nice because you do keep the burst thing in your hand, and then you develop a 4/4, and you deal with a minion here.
So he chooses to go for the Blade Flurry. So he really wants to protect this Farseer and leverage it. I guess what he's trying to do is count down his damage. And Farseer trading is more board control and it's less damage. Pilot Shredder, it's pretty good.
Yeah, because you still want to sap Sylvanas.
Do you have to sap Sylvanas though? Because right now you can kill Sylvanas and then drop something else, and then still save sap for when you want to go for a big play.
Well, if you do sap Sylvanas, it's buying you a whole turn, and it's like, is your opponent just going to replace Sylvanas on 7? If he does, you win. And if he doesn't, you have like, you don't have to worry about Sylvanas for some time. So sapping Sylvanas here, you deal 3 damage, you get them to 19, you play for free, so you still have a very nice board, and you do have that Deadly Poison for next turn and Backstab. So it's like a tempo-oriented play.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mind it. This Farseer is doing so much damage. It's been up for about 3 turns now. Gonna be doing 6 damage, maybe even more. It's not a clear just win, but I like it based off of what Hyped has in his hand as well. He's got sprint to reload, so if he needs to go digging for another answer, he can.
The problem that Hyped is facing right now is he doesn't have much burst. Violet Teacher is blank, kind of. He wanted Eviscerate or maybe Oil as well. That would be a huge card to get. With Oil, it might have been lethal. Like, he has 7, so Forsen is potentially at 12, with Oil being 6. Well, not lethal yet, but getting close. How much afraid Hyped is of dying here against Dr. Boom?
I'm not exactly sure. I like playing Violet Teacher, though, just to decrease the chances of Boombot shenanigans. So he's going to use Fan of Knives to clear.
All right.
Goblin Auto Barber. Not bad. Just because it's like one of those things where it's pretty good for the mana cost, but in the weird scenario where you ever get it back in your hands, like that's pretty good for Rogue. Fits perfectly. Let's see, he's got Swipe and Keeper to start controlling states of the board, but it's still not exactly clean.
Yeah, Forsen is defending himself. He's 1 mana off Azure Drake Swipe.
Yeah, Azure Drake Swipe would have been really clutch. Instead, he's gonna have to clean up with Wrath and Hero Power, I think.
What about Swipe Wrath?
I guess you'd rather Wrath first, right? Unless you're gonna Wrath for 3.
Well, maybe
yeah.
small sequencing thing.
I don't think it truly matters, other than if he picked up Innervate instead. But it's still such an unlikelihood scenario, so... Yeah, Forsen passes it back to Hype, but he's gotten so much damage with this Farseer, and another minion can be easily placed for tempo. Azure Drake into anything, really. Second sprint, a little bit overkill.
I think you can even Deadly Poison and go for face here. In case of Harrison Jones, you want to go for face. Some druids, they do still play it. And that's 8. It seems like Forsen is almost done.
Yep.
There is the Eviscerate.
Yeah, this is his best chance to try and survive. But as long as he picks up any form, okay, that's lethal. As long as he picks up any form of like minions that he can or damage they can get through this this taunt, he's got lethal. All he has to do is backstab the bear, and then eviscerate the face, trade the Drake in, or vice versa. It doesn't really matter. All right, well, game number 2 goes over to Hyped, and the series is evened out, much closer than we had in the previous one where Gar swept RDU. And well, it looks like we're going to have another opportunity here to see if Forsen can take the lead as Hyped wins with Rogue. So both Rogue decks are out right now, right, Nimsh?
Yes, because Hype won with Rogue and Forsen won with Rogue. And we do still have the Druid, Warrior, Mage, and Mage. Mm-hmm. So we don't know the mages yet, but it still stands that if Druid gets match versus Warrior, then Hype will be in trouble. So right now, whoever gets the Mage win will be in a very advantageous position. How is Mage versus Druid? I think it's actually like Freeze Mage, let's say.
Freeze Mage, it struggles, definitely, just because Druid has almost all the right tools. It's got Silence for the Doomsayers, it's got heals, and naturally armors up. It's got good pressure. It kills from the hand, swipe, and combo. Temple Mage, I feel like, is okay. Mech Mage is great against Druid. So you have a varying amount of degrees. Some are good, some are bad, some are okay.
I really enjoy like how Mage is having a lot of different archetypes that can target different types of decks.
Yeah, same here. I'm actually curious to see if like how Flood Mage does. I know, for example, Reynad was really hyped about. Reynad was pretty excited about the Blackrock Mountain because he thinks there's some really key cards there, like the Flame Waker. He says that's like the really big one because if you play Sorcerer's Apprentice and then turn 3 you Flame Waker into like Mirror Entity, it's like really powerful because it controls the board, sets up defensiveness, your spells are really cheap, and then you're doing like Arcane Intellect damage into like Unstable Portal damage, getting more cards, Echo of Medivh, playing more stuff, and it's like,
whoa,
that actually like opens up the deck a lot. So he was telling me that he loves Blackrock Mountain for even though that card is more quote RNG, it's like it's definitely in the step in the right direction because you can control a lot of the variability, similar to Knife Juggler in a sense. Yes and no, right?
Sounds great. I'm definitely going to play that deck, but I think our players are ready. So let's see. What are you going to pick now?
Oh boy.
Druid versus Warrior.
That's not the matchup he wanted.
Oh
Or if you're
That's bad for.
Forsen, wait, what?
Oh, so Forsen,
Okay.
we just got message that
So Forsen forfeited the match so that he wouldn't have to play warrior. So he lets hyped win. So he doesn't lose druid. I think he doesn't want to lose druid against mage. Right?
yeah, he doesn't want to lose Druid versus Warrior because if Forsen wins this, and this is a very good matchup for Forsen, then Forsen loses Warrior, and he Forsen loses Druid, and he wants
Yeah.
Druid versus Mage. So he
He wants druid
forfeits.
versus mage and mage versus mage. He doesn't want the
Yes.
opportunity. Oh, okay. So you know what this is? He's saying that if he beats druid versus warrior, then his freeze mage would have to go up against the warrior. So right now he's losing, so that way hyped has to get rid of warrior,
Whoa.
and he can't line warrior up against freeze mage.
Have this happened before in any tournament, the Conquest tournament? This is actually so sick. Just
It's
giving the win
uh
to position
it's
yourself better.
I guess it's pretty backward strategy. You put yourself at a serious disadvantage overall, so that way you have a higher chance of winning a specific matchup. Um, but yeah, if there's not, I mean, now Hype knows 100% what type of mage deck this is. He doesn't have to guess. Why else? Why else would you forfeit like that? So we'll see. What mage does Hype bring? So I guess that's the last question here. The
Yeah,
last
and I
question.
think the guys are ready. So let's jump in and see what kind of mage deck that is. Was Forsen's decision to forfeit versus Warrior correct? It's a
Oh, it's
mech
Mech
mage.
Mage. All right, so Freeze Mage versus Mech Mage, and then Druid
Um,
versus Mech Mage.
yes,
I'm gonna give the nod to Hyped here. He's got
same.
chances to win on both ends. Although I do like Freeze Mage against these aggressive decks. So I'm feeling that Forsen will win this one, and then we'll go to game
Well,
5. Hype will have the
he,
edge.
oh yeah, definitely. I play versus Freeze Mage as well, with mech mage, and I think that Freeze Mage is basically heavily favored in this matchup because it's like as a mech mage, you do want to set a board, and Freeze Mage has all the tools in the world to wreck your board, to stop your aggression, and to survive. And when they survive, they get to Alexstrasza turn, and they just finish you off. So it's a really tough matchup for mech mage. But then if Hyped wins, well, if Forsen wins with Freeze Mage, then we are going to the last game, which is Druid versus Mech Mage, which is very tricky. And Mech Mage is heavily favored, but I've seen Druid win. It's not like it's 100% win rate for Mech Mage versus Druid.
Yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that forfeit if it works out the way he wants it to. Because if no, I get it. So like, Hype would just have to make sure to. Actually, I can't even figure it out, man. It's definitely really next level. I was like, what if he just loses with his other mage to try to retaliate so he can force it, right?
Well,
Because like
knowing
if you know,
knowing the decks right now, it doesn't make much sense because if you win with your Druid versus Warrior, then your Druid is locked and you only have Mage. And you go with your Mage versus Warrior, which is all right, you can lose if it's Freeze Mage. And then you go into the last game, which is Mage versus Mage, and you have 50-50, right? It's like knowing it's a Mech Mage, you win. And knowing it's a Freeze Mage, you have a 50-50 Freeze Mage. If you do forfeit, then you have to still play with your Druid. Like, I think it makes sense if it's a Freeze Mage. But if Hype is playing Mech Mage, then Forsen kind of cheated himself a bit. He gave an unnecessary.
yeah. You're right. And I was just trying to wrap my head around the entire thing, but bottom line is Forsen was thinking like a few steps ahead here. Now the problem is this game is actually panned out for one of the worst possible boards. Like he doesn't want to use Frost Nova because he doesn't have anything next turn on turn 5 to guarantee his safety. And playing Ice Block here, 5, 8, 10, 16. Oh man, he's getting challenged to perhaps die. He might.
Is
I
the
think I might be in favor of using like Frostbolt instead to stall as opposed to Ice Block.
There's
Like
like
I'd rather
16
use
damage on the
Frostbolt.
board, right?
Yeah.
So if you ice block, you're getting,
Put the one.
yeah. Basically, ice block is getting popped with frostbolt, right? It's like, oh no, because you can ping. So it's 10, 16 plus frostbolt is 18 points, 19 points of damage. Oh, with Iceland's you're okay. So then we are starting at 6 plus 5, 11, plus 3.
14, 15. 15, but you
What to do? What to do?
Well, 15 points of damage on turn 5. But basically, being a freeze mage, you don't want to be with 3 points of health on turn 5 against a deck that has direct removal. So somehow Hyped is actually in a great position here.
What to do?
Yeah, the icing on the cake is that there's really no AoE past the next two turns. Like Forsen is just gonna try to chain freeze. So this is a risk in the sense it's like, if my opponent had a specific way to kill, like pop my ice block, I would have been in trouble. But the gambit paid off, and now I can even put out Mad Scientist. That's really big. Mad Scientist able to be developed is really, really huge. So that way we can get another ice barrier or another way to get ice block in case he gets popped here. Like say he draws fireball.
Yeah. Well, from my
Oh man. Oh, that was really close.
and that's actually super important as well, because if you can pop the block next turn, whatever happens, and you leave Forsen on 1, and he will have to replay the ice block. If he doesn't, you just kill him with a ping. So Forsen right now has what, 2 turns? Next turn,
Yeah.
3 turns, I think, right? Like next turn he is live, then his ice block gets popped, so he has next turn. Yeah, 2 turns. He needs an ice block or he needs a heal.
What to do? What to do?
Would you want to frostbolt now? So that way you can just ping him next turn? Or does it matter?
I think that doesn't really matter, because next turn you can just frostbolt and ping. Like you might be afraid of healbot, so if you frostbolt now, that and Forsen plays healbot, which is sometimes in the, you can actually ping.
It's just that I would frostbolt now in case I drew Lotheb, and then I could play Lotheb and ping next turn.
Well, what you can also do, I'm thinking about Dr. Boom. Dr. Boom is really interesting in this matchup, because if you face Doomsayer, Dr. Boom is actually winning you the game. Because Doomsayer clears the board and then bombs are killing the mage.
What to do?
It triggers like when Ice Block is deactivated at the beginning of your turn. So Dr. Boom is another way to win this matchup.
Yeah, unfortunately the Fire Blast goes through the ice barrier, so as long as Hype never pops it and he's just camps on this board, I mean, I don't really foresee a way for Forsen to win here unless he gets ice block and stalls until Alex Strauza comes out here.
Well, he can do a Forsen play, which is kill your own Thalnos to draw into something.
Yeah. Draw into Explosive Sheep, and then basically you need to shut down your opponent's hero power for 1 turn. Because if he could force an attack into the ice barrier, he would have been in a decent spot. But looks like Forsen's done, so he's going to quit here. And that wraps up the series. Hyped wins 3-1, and Forsen's forfeit did not gamble, or did not pay off. Sorry, his forfeit gamble did not pay off. Man.
Yeah, I still like it though. I don't like the decision itself, but I like that he was brave enough to do it, like to try this strategy to position yourself better, even though you're forfeiting a game. And I think that was great. And maybe this time it didn't work, but if we see it more in the future, that would be definitely exciting. Like seeing players conceding specific matchups to save the deck versus others. That might be a valid strategy.
Might be the beginning of what we start seeing more often, Conquest. Well, that wraps up the game, and we've had 5 series today, so we're pretty much wrapped up. So let's go ahead and get some final thoughts. Nimsh, what was your favorite series of the day?
My favorite series of the day, I think my favorite series was Gara versus RDU, where Gara brought those interesting decks, the Shaman. Did he have Hunter? Well, basically Gara,
Yeah.
He had a very nice warrior deck.
Yeah, he
And
bought
Hunter,
the
yeah.
flare. He bought the flare. Remember that
He
caught
got the
RDU
flare,
off
yeah.
guard.
So like
Yeah.
every game, I feel like every game in that series was definitely very interesting and played by both players. Also, RDU's reactions to whatever happened on board, and when he saw the flare, was like, oh my god, like that has really happened. And yeah, I think like we had a couple of interesting series today. Very exciting still.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I agree there, and I was really happy to see some really fun RNG ones for Reynad. Obviously at the cost of Ping Ping Ho, poor guy, but we'll see what happens in the following weeks because we're just getting started. Keep in mind that we'll be starting next week, so make sure to check out what's going on here. I want to give a big shout out to NVIDIA for putting on the tournament, and hopefully that if you're playing in the open tournament as well, that you're getting the good RNGs as well. So we're done. We'll see you guys next time here for the Pro-Am tournament. So from Frodan and Anderson, the production crew, have a good night, and we'll